Hello, I'm Eric, and today we're practicing ADHD verbal self-defense. Now, whether or not you decide to disclose your ADHD is, of course, your choice. Sometimes it makes perfect sense, like in the case of asking for accommodations at work or helping your romantic partner to understand more about you. Sometimes it just comes up naturally in conversations. Yes, it's personal, but ADHD isn't something you should be ashamed of after all. When you have ADHD, there's a very high likelihood that at some point you will engage in conversation with somebody who has prejudice and will make ignorant comments about your condition. And you will rightfully be upset, but most of the time this is also an opportunity to educate our subject ignoramus. Sometimes, however, you will encounter a troll, who are of course most commonly found online, but sometimes will appear before you in all their trolly glory. And for those instances, it's also good to have a few jabs in your back pocket. So step into my dojo and we'll take a look at the right ways and the wrong ways to defend yourself in conversation against the confused, misinformed, and sometimes downright nasty as it pertains to ADHD. And please take your shoes off. I just cleaned the mats, for the love of God. The first comment we're gonna learn to defend ourselves against is the classic. ADHD isn't real. Let's first take a look at the wrong way to respond to this. Yeah, it is. My doctor told me I had it. Now, while this is of course completely true, it can invite big pharma and evil doctor conspiracies from your opponent, which frankly are very annoying because dismantling conspiracies is exhausting and probably a waste of your time. So instead, you can say this. Regardless of if it's true or not, I have struggled my entire life doing certain things that are easy for others. Maybe that means I'm just unintelligent. Maybe that means I'm lazy. Or maybe it means there's something else going on. This is effective because it puts your opponent in a position where they are now forced to call you unintelligent or lazy if they choose to disagree with the notion that there could be something else going on, i.e. ADHD. Most decent humans in this position will decide to avoid insulting you and concede that there must be something else going on. And they don't have to explicitly go back on what they stated, which would be to admit wrongness, even though that's the obvious subtext. Now, if they are not decent, they may say, yeah, that's probably what it is. In which case, you can follow up with this combo. It's interesting though, because people have always seen me as smart, you know? Like, have you been called smart a lot in your life? And they either have or haven't. If it's the latter, this question alone will likely sting a little bit. But either way, they'll probably say, yeah, I have. At which point, you'll act surprised and say, really? Huh. Insinuating that you do not agree with this hypothetical opinion. They may then say with a bruised ego, okay, maybe you're smart, but you're just lazy. And that, warriors, is the next attack that we'll focus on defending against, along with its variation, what? You people just use ADHD as an excuse to be lazy. Here's the wrong way to respond. It's not laziness, it's actually a dopamine deficiency. While ADHD is very likely linked to a dysfunction of dopamine, it's kind of a jargony response that won't be received very well. And to elaborate on it requires being privy to some pretty in-depth neuroscience. And that's knowledge not a lot of us have. So instead, you can say, I'm constantly focusing on things that are interesting to me, and when uninteresting things get in my way, it is exceedingly difficult for me to shift my focus to those uninteresting things. I do it because I have to, but it feels like I'm grinding my gears each time. So it's weird to think about it as laziness because it requires so much constant effort. Now the picture you've just painted is one of hard work, not laziness. And it works because it's true. Now if they decide to simply ignore what you just said and respond with something self-indulgent like, I do stuff I don't want to do all the time. It's called having a strong work ethic. It's safe to assume that they are only interested in inflating their own ego by putting you down. So if you felt so inclined to respond in an equally petty way, you could say, well, that's good, because people like me need people like you to do all the grunt work. It's very noble of you. And they'll probably respond with something like, oh, I don't do it for you, I do it for me so I can better myself, or whatever. And then you can say, you sure? How much of that work that you do, that you don't want to do you do for someone else? Which is likely a lot of it, because that's what a job is after all. And then you can hit them with the finisher. We both do stuff we don't want to do. You just seem to be more okay with doing it for other people. Now this may or may not be a logical fallacy, but they've already made it very clear that they're more interested in being a jerk than they are in listening to logic. So they had it coming. The last attack that we're going to learn to defend ourselves against in today's lesson is, isn't everyone a little ADHD? And its variation, everyone has ADHD nowadays. Now, these statements usually don't come from a place of malice. They've probably seen something relatable on social media, maybe even one of my videos, and thought to themselves, everybody experiences this stuff from time to time. Which, of course, is the key. Let's start with the wrong way to respond. I literally have such a hard time focusing and I lose my keys all the time. I'm super disorganized and random. People have a tendency to view others through a lens of their own behaviors. So when you proceed to list out problems that you can relate back to ADHD, they're probably thinking to themselves, you know what, I can't focus sometimes, but I put on music and power through it anyways. Or I used to lose my keys, I lost them a couple times, and I put a hanger by my door, now I don't have that problem. I solve for these problems, and you can too, because that's what their experience has been without ADHD. They are unable to know and empathize with what it's like to experience those things with ADHD. So instead, you can say, I can understand why you'd think that. If you look at every symptom of ADHD, they are all things that everyone experiences occasionally. What differentiates people with ADHD is the frequency and severity of those symptoms. So for example, everyone has struggled to listen to a lecture at some point in their life. Somebody with ADHD, however, can attend 100 lectures and struggle to listen to and retain any information despite attempting to every single time. This is put in terms that most people can appreciate. Unless they're a douchebag, in which case they may say, sounds like you just need to try harder, you're not special. Oh, and of course now we are no longer talking about a clean fight. The groin is no longer off limits. Oh, got it. That's really helpful. Thanks so much for the tip. Man, you should go into psychology. There are so many patients with ADHD that can benefit from your expertise. Man, forget the research, right? Wow. I mean, this is incredible. Nobel Peace Prize worthy, really. You have proved yourself so valuable in this conversation. And we'll end our lesson there. I hope you've learned something today and will join me again soon. In fact, to make sure that you don't miss any future lessons, please subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment and a like if you like this video and want to see more like it, and I will make it happen, young grasshopper. Until next time.